9 years ago, when Stanford alumni Avnish Agarwal and David Julian decided to start their own company, they had one goal. They wanted to use artificial intelligence to make roads around the world safer. And so, Netradyne was born. It all began with one scrappy prototype. They duct taped a smartphone to the windshield of a car and hooked it up to an NVIDIA GPU. The idea was to be able to film the driver as they navigated traffic and to generate safety alerts and feedback like slow down or distracted driving. It was a novel idea for sure, but the initial setup, I think you'll agree, was pretty crude. Yet, it was somehow supposed to revolutionize driver safety for a potential client. Back then, Agarwal and Julian vehemently believed that they were onto something. And turns out they were right. Just last month, their company became India's first unicorn of 2025 after it raised $90 million dollars in Series D funding. You see, Netradyne quickly realized that its sweet spot is the long distance trucking segment. It serves over 3,000 customers across 8 countries, including the likes of Amazon, Shell, Indian Oil, and Green Line Mobility. And it all began with that one rather primitive prototype. Of course, it has now morphed into a compact device with a built in GPU, up to 4 cameras, and a disembodied voice alerting drivers to not crash the vehicle. The Ken reporter, my colleague Abhirami G, recently found herself in the backseat of one of Netradyne's test cars in Bangalore's Whitefield neighbourhood. The driver of the car was a Netradyne employee. And as he weaved through the traffic, the company's signature always on surveillance cameras didn't just watch his every move, but were also understanding and analyzing. Because as he drove, he was generating precious training data that powers the company's bread and butter, those safety alerts that we just spoke about. Apart from making roads safer, this whole system also doubles up as a driver's best legal defense in times of trouble. The company's executive vice president of engineering, Teja Gudena, said that on multiple occasions it has saved drivers from liability by proving their innocence in accidents. The company's model has taken it far, literally. Apart from its newfound unicorn status, it reportedly managed to clock 1,000 crore rupees in revenue in 2023. It also currently has a stronghold in the US and other major markets. And crossing all of these milestones within a span of 9 years is quite remarkable. But despite all that success, Netradyne is now grappling with an existential crisis. Because now, driverless vehicles are no longer science fiction. They are a logistical inevitability. And that leaves Netradyne in a rather tricky spot. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Nigda Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rahel Philippos and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Thursday, the 13th of February. Netradyne has come a long way since its early prototype days. Today, it employs nearly 1,000 people across the world, manufactures its cameras in Gurgaon, and has its own research and development facility in Bangalore. In the last 9 years, it has managed to really up the ante in the driver safety space. Gudena explained to the Ken that before Netradyne, there were companies that claimed to work in this space, but their definition was mostly centered around motion sensors with just cameras as backup. These were essentially dash cams connected to the cloud, but they didn't have any vision analytics, which is what gives Netradyne an edge. It integrates advanced computer vision, which enables real time assessment of driver behavior directly on the device itself. In Gudena's words, just relying on motion sensors alone is like teaching a student 10 subjects but testing them on just 2. And that vision seemed to have resonated with a bunch of commercial fleet operators. You see, at the end of the day, accidents are bad for business. Not only do they come with repair costs and rising insurance premiums, but also because a headline like X company's delivery van just crashed into a sedan is just going to make them look bad. So, for the likes of Amazon, it is a matter of reputation, which is why Amazon has been Netradyne's client since 2021. And in the last 4 years, this technology has become integral to Amazon's massive operations across the US and beyond. Now, this is obviously the dream of any company in the driver safety space. A client like Amazon does not come easy. But at the same time, privacy advocates have raised alarms about the surveillance implications of Netradyne's cameras. In fact, some angry drivers even called it Big Brother. Gudena, for his part, said Netradyne is doing its best to balance safety and privacy. Like, the cameras stop recording when parked, but keep an eye out at stop signs. And while Gudena did not comment on Amazon specifically, he did admit that privacy expectations vary widely among customers. So, it is definitely a tricky place to be. But the company has bigger concerns: driverless cars. More on that in the next segment. Netradyne's pitch is pretty straightforward. No one else has the kind of road data that it does. It has billions of miles worth of data on road signs, driver behavior, and just about every possible way someone can mess up behind the wheel. And this isn't just data from India, it is from around the world. And this is how Netradyne has managed to position itself as a critical player in the race to perfect the algorithms of driverless vehicles from across continents. So, you see, the more real world scenarios that these algorithms will have to refine themselves, the safer driverless cars will become. And that is what makes Netradyne coveted and unique. That is especially relevant as autonomous trucks edge closer to reality in the US. Other countries in the West are also making advancements in this department. In Germany, for instance, level 4 autonomous vehicles, which are the kind that need minimal human intervention, are now legally permitted to operate in designated areas. So, in all likelihood, trucks are going to be the first wave of the self driving revolution, considering they are generally following predictable routes and are operating on highways. But the thing is, once autonomous trucking takes off, Netradyne's biggest clients, trucking fleets, may not even need drivers anymore. And that would mean no need for driver monitoring systems anymore, the lifeblood of Netradyne. And unsurprisingly, Amazon has already invested in autonomous trucking. It's definitely a potential threat to Netradyne's business model, but according to two researchers from Qualcomm and IIT Madras that the Ken spoke to, it is not a big one. Because, like I told you earlier, the biggest barrier to autonomous vehicles right now, ironically, is the very thing that Netradyne has in spades: data. An autonomous driving algorithm is thirsty for deep, specific data about driving patterns. So, Netradyne has a clear edge here. It offers behavioral insights. So, it won't just be mapping turns, it also maps how a driver typically navigates those turns. And that sort of nuanced, actionable data is invaluable at this point in time. That's already a head start. So, how is Netradyne thinking about future proofing its business? Stay tuned to find out. So, the truth is that we are some time away from truck automation. Yes, optimistic forecasts predict its integration into commercial fleets by the end of the year, but reality doesn't quite match up. Shubhadeep Kumar, a former researcher in autonomous vehicles at IIT Madras, explained that level 4 autonomous vehicles, which include commercial fleets, can only operate under strict constraints. In Germany, for example, they are allowed to use only one side of the road, kind of like a cycle lane. So, pulling this off at a large enough scale that it matters is a whole different ballgame. Actually, the whole driverless vehicle sector has realized this and has been in quite a rut for the past few years. But the real wild card that has gotten people excited once again is generative AI. Gen AI's ability to stimulate driving conditions that do not exist in real life has become a game changer for training autonomous software. And this is where Netradyne appears to be hedging its bets. It claims to be building Gen AI models capable of predicting driving outcomes minutes in advance. But the tech comes with its own set of caveats. So, experts like Kumar are skeptical. He says these models would work in countries with strict traffic rules. I mean, I don't even want to imagine how it would work in a country like India with our traffic. So, naturally, for an Indian company like Netradyne, Kumar's criticism cuts deep, especially since now its most immediate challenge is staying relevant. One way to future proof itself could be by shifting the focus back to the home turf. Because at the end of the day, India needs Netradyne's technology more than most other countries. Every single year, close to 2 lakh people die in road accidents here. But while Gudena says that India was always a significant market for the company, early acceptance of their product was way higher in the US and in the West. Now, however, things seem to be changing. The company has been getting a lot more requests from India, and this could change things for it. Perhaps the next chapter of Netradyne won't just be about making trucks safe or autonomous vehicles smarter, but rather about figuring out how to thrive in markets where chaos is the default setting.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of the Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings. A full subscription unlocks daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and podcast extras. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on top of the Ken website. Today's episode was hosted by Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.